Yeah, this is a story that maybe I started but didn't get to see the end of it. In '75, my last year, I was the first jumper to jump a fire, and it was on the north side of the Yukon River by Beaver, I believe it was. I mean, right on the north side of the river. And, and the river was just in breakup. I mean, there was chunks of ice going down the Yukon to refrigerator and car size chunks, and they're just rolling as it went. And what it was what they called a muskrat fire. The natives would go out into a marsh area that had muskrats, set the place on fire, and shoot the muskrats when they came out. Then they'd leave and hope the fires burn out. And there was still snow on the ground, and all the vegetation was brown, very dry. So we flew south to north over the river and dropped the streamers as they do over the jump spot, which were not too far from the fire, and then watched where the streamers go. And I forget the spotter. I think it might have been Pat Shear. But they said it was questionable, so he assured me he would carry me further, and I would be the real streamer to get an indication, and then I would go by myself instead of dropping two guys, they just send one. So, and I was to radio back if there were any problems. So I went out and thought I was doing okay, but the wind just took me to the river. There was, I was just headed for the river faster than I wanted to go. And if I could have free fall for the last 100 feet, I would have. But I got very close to I probably lit within 150 feet of the river. Maybe 50 yards, something like that, at most. And I didn't even have the radio out yet when they dropped. They started dropping them. And the other guys, they were dropping further. They saw what the mistake was, and I thought, well, that's okay. And I was getting out of my gear, and then I looked up and I saw a chute going over the top of me that was going further to the south, closer to it was going to land between myself and the river, and the trajectory was it was going to be closer to the river. So I grabbed my let-down rope and ran to the river. I got about halfway there and took a stick in the eye. And it was the only real trip to an emergency room I had, but I had to be pulled off the fire because I scratched my cornea. I didn't want to go, but they said it looked bad, and I hated to give up the overtime. Yeah, I would have been back by 4 o'clock, I think. So, but anyway, the jumper, and I don't know who it was, but they never landed in the river. They were close. They were the winner. They got the closest. And so I had to pull off the fire. We put the fire out very easily. I think there were maybe 4 of us jumped, maybe 6, maybe only 4, because it wasn't much. And it was early and just made a few more bodies on the fire. So I had to leave, and I headed back to Fairbanks. Well, I just found out last night that the rest of that story is that those that remained, and I believe Gary Johnson, Evan Simmons were 2 names mentioned, that they actually got on their jumpsuits and got out on a chunk of ice in the Yukon. And they have pictures of that. I think they had a rope maybe tied to the ice, and it's Gary, he said as he tried to pull it in, the ice block started to roll, and then I don't know the rest of the story. So, but he's supposed to bring the photograph this evening. So Gary Johnson has a picture of jumpers on the ice floes of the Yukon River in '75, and I want a copy.